Hi guys, welcome to Crazyhouse Puzzles with CGM Adet. And in this series, we're going to be showing a couple of puzzles for beginners, intermediate, and advanced um, players here. So we're going to start with this puzzle that came in the game between Crosskey and CIW, two very well-known Crazyhouse players. So it's black to play and definitely to win the game. Now, a couple of things we do need to take a note of. I know some of you already say, yeah, I can see the puzzle, I know the answer, which is quite good. But we do have players among us who are just picking up the game and trying to understand how you go about with forced mates and recognizing mating patterns. I think one of the first things I'll talk about here is that when let's look at the arsenal that black has. So here black has 4 pawns, 1 knight, 1 bishop, 1 rook, and 1 queen. And trust me, in the kind of confirmed space that the white king is. So if we look at that now, the white king is here, is hemmed in by his own piece here. So that means this square has been taken away from him, that square has been taken away, and this square. So let's concentrate on the box. So this is the box. Anytime you're looking at a mating threat against your king's opponent, always take note of, this square, this 9 squares. So out of these 9 squares, he has already, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 squares have been taken away from white already. The one he occupies and these 4 other spaces. So it's like in a confined space, and it's only got about one. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4 squares that can actually occupy. So the question is, how do we begin the attack? So normally, if this rook wasn't here and this knight wasn't here protecting the square, this queen drop here would be an immediate mate. So we've got 2 defenders, and the question is that in order for us to mate, we might have to find a way either to deflect the defenders or bring the king into a position whereby he'll be forced to mate. Now, the first move we're going to make, so now that we know that a rook here or a queen here won't work because of either knight takes or a knight takes here or rook takes on here. So what we need to do, we need to find a move that can force the king to a square where we can mate him, and something similar. So if we go with, so look at the pieces here in your mind, think about it for a minute. What piece would you want to drop on the board to draw the king into a mating sequence and not lose material or lose your the edge that you have, because, or your tempo, because in Crazyhouse it's not about how many pieces you have, it's mainly about who has tempo. So you could be smashing your opponent and winning, and then just giving one chance, and that's it, end of the game. We all keep saying that Crazyhouse is unforgiving. So let's go ahead with the solving of the puzzle. So what we do, first thing to drop here is knight here. So what does this do? This knight is a check. You can't. It's a knight check is the only check in Crazyhouse that a king cannot defend. It has to move. And now in this position here, there's only one square the king can come to. So it comes here. So definitely. So the king has to move, and this is the only square it can come to. Now, like I said, in this case, we need to have a sustained attack. We need to keep attacking and draw the king to a place where we really want to mate him. So we continue the attack with bishop check, and then it has to do something because it can't go back. The king cannot go back because that's check. It's on the check and it has to move. He cannot take this. So definitely it has to do something, and there's only one thing he can do. He can either take with the knight or with the rook. Now let's see what happens if he takes with the knight. So if he takes with the knight, we have, see, let's see what happens if he takes with the knight. So knight takes. Well, immediately, in fact, that will just lose the game, and I'll show you a sequence here. Now, knight takes is very bad because watch this. Check. This is a force. This is check that he cannot block. He has to move. But the problem is that he has only one space to move. He has to go back. And say, for example, the king went back. What happens? We have a mate. Okay. So definitely it cannot go back. So knight takes. That bishop definitely does not work. Okay, so we come back. Okay, so the other option we have is rook takes bishop. Okay, definitely we're all going to take back. So that's the first thing. So we've now removed, we're trying to get rid of the defenders around the king so that we can actually go ahead and mate. So what we'll follow up is bishop takes bishop. So here also the king has to respond. So if he went knight takes, if he goes with the knight again, remember that what happened before, we talked about locked in within a confined space. So if we do not, if the opponent does knight takes bishop, then you would have these taxes in whereby knight check, and the king has, in fact, only two things. In fact, one square that he can do if he can go back here. But remember what we said. If he goes back there, we have. In fact, don't even use the queen. Just use the rook. That's mate. So that is mate. Okay. So it comes back here. That means the king is forced to take with the bishop, and if that happens, it's still the end of the game because black can then drop upon. Whether it takes it or not, it doesn't matter. It's mated. There's nothing he can do. So if he takes it, now remember we talked about confined space. This alone, I mean, look at this confined space. There's nothing he can do here. I mean, look at it. The king, that's a check, protected by the knight. The king is now, I mean, look at that box. He's already lost access to free spaces within that box alone by his own pieces. It's got a pawn here, it's got a knight here, it's got a bishop here. So out of 9 squares, he's already lost 3 squares. In fact, not 4 squares because he occupies one of them. So he's only got 5 squares left. Now, and then look at it. This queen alone covers one square, 2 squares, 3, 4, 5. The queen alone controls 5 squares within that box alone. So that gives you an idea that wow, the king is going to be easy to make that king in there. Now, before we say it's easy because it's easier said than done, let's look at you have to first look at the arsenal you have. So if you look back on black has got 3 pawns and 2 rooks. My god. And how many squares has he actually got in there? He's only got 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you've got about 5 arsenals there. And don't forget, rook 2 will have, the number of squares that he can cover. So in a way, you should know, your instinct should tell you that, yeah, there's a mate here. So it has to move. And the only logical square that it can move to is here. And to be honest, this is mating 1. And just mate. That's it. So we could say easy peasy, but it's not easy peasy. But it's all about looking, because you probably have few seconds to look at this, and that's why you have to get used to these patterns. You have to look at it. How many squares as a king got out of those 9 squares? How is limited. What arsenal do you have? How many squares can you control? And that will give you an idea of whether mate is whether there's going to be a forced mate or not. So we quickly go back. Let's go back to the very beginning where we started. So we went in with that was one of the things I did before. Let's go back here. So we went in with knight, and we said he had to come up here. There's another variation I'm going to show you from this, and we said definitely not. You can't take with knight. You have to take with rook. Now, because of that, because the variation we did was mate, so we're going to go the other way. So we are going to look at bishop takes. So instead of knight takes, we're going to go with king take, and this is where our pawns come into play. Still remember that there's a way we lure. It's like a fish's net. You have to lure the king into that matiness, and the easiest way to lure the king is to drop a pawn. Now watch here. The king is cut off from this square by the knight. It can come here, but that's where we want him to come. In fact, that's one of the places we want him to come, because we want to. Don't forget our trick that we had before. We said when the king was here, remember the king was here, we were able to get our knight here, check, and because it was blocked in by this, mate was quite easy. Okay, so this pawn now, it has to take it. There's no way if it doesn't take it, it's going to be mated. In fact, we can even mate him with a pawn, because say for example he decided to go back here, and we got, in fact, I'm just looking at it, it's just too many. Can you imagine even us going with, so like we said, knight goes in there and it's still going to be, so I'm not even going to look at it anymore. So it has to take by force, and then we come in here. If it doesn't take that pawn, it is in trouble, because he's only got this square now, and then look at, I mean, there's too many. Some of you have been laughing at, oh my God, no, he's in trouble. Yeah, we know he's in trouble. So it has to take it, because if not, if he decides to go that way, it's still going to be checking. In fact, the first one we do, we block him off first with that, so he has to block. So this is what they call blocking off the king's escape route. You cut him off. Don't give him any chance to escape. Now, in this position here now, he can't come here. He can't come here. Sorry, he can't come here. He has to block. So no matter what he blocks with, whether with a rook, bishop, it doesn't matter. So say for example, you block with a bishop, then definitely that's mate. So whichever way it goes is mate. So come here. So he has no choice in here. He has to take that F1, and if he does do that, oh my God, this is going to be fun. In fact, first thing to do first, pawn, and that what you're trying to do. Don't use the queen, because don't waste the queen. Remember, you only got one queen, so get him to that place. You want to make sure. I mean, look at this. You cut him off from this place here. Get him to that back rank. What you want to do, get him to the, get the king to the back rank. You've got your knight already in place. You cut the squares. You got rooks to cut him off here. Rooks confined. So you get him into place whereby you say, yeah, I'm the boss. So that's what you do there. So definitely he can't take that. He has to move. He goes, king moves in, and oh my God. And there, what you do, you go in with the queen. Where's my queen? And what the queen does, it makes sure it cuts him off from here. He has to go back, and he's going to got two squares. This square and that square. So, and so let's say he moves here. You got your bishop. In fact, to even make him even laugh, just cut him off again. And then, like just as we did before, even if it puts a rook, we'll put a pawn. Oh, wait a minute. No, we don't do that. The queen is already blocking that. So what we do, just go the other way. Sorry. That's why I said you have to be very careful. Just go this way. And that's cut off. That's immediately cut off. Completely cut off. Nothing you can do. Nothing at all. So, and sometimes you have to do this on seconds. When you're playing very fast guys, they're watching, you have to be precise. How many times in a game have I lost because, not getting the right check? And that's why I've started taking time to look at puzzles and look at them, looking at theories. I mean, remember when we were talking about this square with the king, making sure, seeing, eyeing how many squares the king has to himself within that nine square, the 9 square. if you want to say. So nine squares in a box. Yeah, I'll say 9 squares in a box. And that could really help. So thank you very much. Now, thank you for joining me in this puzzle. I'm going to try and see if I can bring more puzzles for you. Take care. God bless. CGM Adet signing out. Take care.